we're here today to talk about New Relic, letgo, logging, all of the different stuff. How is things changing in the industry? And I guess we'll start just by me introducing myself. My name is Daniel Fitzgerald. I work for New Relic as a senior solution consultant. And what that means is I basically work with customers like Marcelo, who works for letgo, all across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, showing how they can adopt New Relic and our observability platform. And I would just quickly like to introduce Marcelo before we start off today's conversation. So, Marcelo, would you kindly introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Okay. Well, my name is Marcelo Bartsch. I work for letgo for the last 2 years. I'm working as a DevOps practitioner or SRE, but when people normally ask what I do, I normally just said I'm a system administrator. That's for me. That's what I felt, as I like to say. Since I started working on this, it's mainly what you do. Then you have a lot of other fancy names, but the job and the responsibilities, basically, the one of the system administrator responsibility you got from many years ago. But the name has been changing, the tools has changed, the way to do the work has changed, but you ended up doing the same.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that. I think, practices kind of change and the kinds of systems that you deal with change, but fundamentally, the job still kind of stays the same. And that's the same for me. I've worked in a couple of different areas, but what I do is essentially the same, right? Just helping people out and doing tasks. So obviously you work for letgo. Would you mind telling us a little bit about who letgo is, what they do, and a little bit of history about the company, please?
Yeah, sure. Okay, letgo. Was a startup created in 2015. It's basically an application that you use on your phones or on the web to sell secondhand items. You can sell there from electronics, things that you use at your house that you're no longer using. We can call it a lamp, a desktop, a PC. You can sell nowadays. You can even sell your car or boat or a used car there.
No way.
Anything.
Yeah, so you're selling cars, selling boats, laptops, computers, all of these different things. That's really cool. And what kind of countries are you operating in at letgo?
Nowadays, our main country where we're operating is Turkey. So that's where we're focusing all our efforts, to say somehow. Yeah. But also you can use the application in many other countries. But yeah, the one where we are putting advertising effort, technology, I already said advertising, sorry, but let's say all our efforts are being putting on Turkey.
Okay, that's awesome. Turkey, yeah, such an exciting market to do business in. I went there personally just before we all had to stay at home, and I thought it was such a vibrant and dynamic place. What a great country to do business in. So you can buy and sell all of these different items, and you have obviously many, hundreds, thousands of users per month. Tell us a little bit about, what's the technology stack behind the letgo experience that customers use to buy and sell? Like what have you built that allows all of this to happen?
Okay, so from the user side, well, you have your phone. You can use your Android or iOS on the web. Your web browser is the main application the user will have. Yep. Now going a little go down the hood for the application. We are basically everything is based on at the operating system. Everything is Linux based or Unix based, whatever you want to call it. Then on top of that, we have different application frameworks. The two main ones at the moment are PHP and Scala. So these are the two strongest competitors inside letgo, for say somehow. Also, we have Node.js, Python, and all the others. Different applications or tools that for some cases we don't stick with just we have to use one or the other. Sometimes there's one application that is better than the rest, and then of course use that one instead of rewriting, or more than rewriting, redoing the wheel, so to speak. So and on that as I said, this was started in 2015. So we have everything on the cloud. It started as a cloud native or cloud born company. So we have everything on the cloud. Everything was using like virtual machines or EC2 instances. We are on AWS nowadays. In the last year and a half, we started the migration from EC2 to Kubernetes. Mm-hmm. That's been interesting because it's been a change of paradigms, a change of the way of doing things, and a little bit of new complications or problems in the way. Say nicely.
Okay, that's really interesting then. So yeah, you're kind of born in the cloud company, kind of started off just using EC2 and building out different services using these languages, and kind of in the process of moving to Kubernetes. And it sounds like there's been a lot of interesting kind of learnings along the way. Tell me a bit, like what's your role been within all of that, within that organization? Like what do you do in a day-to-day basis at letgo?
That's a lot of things. So, but yeah, on a day-to-day basis, it's mainly be worried about that the infrastructure is available for developers so they can deploy their code. So they can test the new features they're producing. They are able to see how they interact with the other components of the applications. How can they validate that the changes they're doing are working as expected? Be able to provide them with environments where they can test the thing, see how it fails, when it fails, try to avoid or handle these failures in a good way and not just falling on the ground and then catching the exceptions or things like that. Also, planning and preparing for the new features. Also, for the system updates, preparing the system. In the cloud environment, you are more forced to keep your system up to date. It's not like when you have everything in-house. If you have a system that is running the same operating system for the last 8 years, it doesn't matter because it's still running there, and you keep the same hardware and everything will keep working. On the cloud, you have more issues with that. Like, I don't know, if you're running managed systems, you're not handling the operating system probably. You're not handling all the details of managing the hardware, operating system, the small change of configuration. So you have to be worried, like, I don't know, you're running version 1, it's going to be deprecated, so you have to prepare your upgrade to version 1.2 for say just a number. So part of my work, the team when I work with, is to be preparing these changes, preparing the environment so the developers can test their changes on the new environment, and maintain all this infrastructure and maintaining healthy and somehow.
Yeah. That's really interesting. It sounds like you're obviously a very, very busy person. And I think the interesting thing, because I've been working and speaking to letgo for like maybe a year and a half, 2 years now, and all of the stuff that you just described as well, like I would kind of categorize it as like you deal with a lot of change, right? Like developers are always developing new features, deploying new stuff. You have to keep up to date with the infrastructure and keep that in compliance and stuff like that. And then I know personally that, letgo is, always evolving to challenges in the market, to new business opportunities, like, hey, we're going to sell cars now in a different market. And again, that's change as well. So like, I kind of feel like you're always just dealing with lots and lots of change. And how do you deal with that as a challenge? And how do you make sure that throughout all of that change, that you have consistency and kind of, production is healthy? How do you deal with that?
Good question. To be honest, it's hard. It's not an easy thing. But I'll say like it's mainly in a big part thanks to Relic. Even though it may sound like I'm recording this with you guys, and probably people seeing this thing. Yeah, he's saying that because this is from within New Relic. Let me tell you that that's not true. I mean, the New Relic's APM, New Relic logs, New Relic insights, and all these other tools that you have really help us a lot on this, because they give us like a big picture of what's going on in the system, and also allow us to go like to the root, not to the root, but to the exact point where this issue started, just with a few clicks. So this helps us a lot to understand what's going on, but also we don't have to worry about being able to understand everything at the beginning. We can just drop something there, like the APM agent or the New Relic infrastructure, just put it there, leave it to do its things. Then you have like I would say like a 10,000 feet above overview, like a big picture. And then you can go by details, going down, zooming in on the information. And once you have all this information, you can go like, okay, for me, this bit of information is really important. So you can go there and you can create alarms, or you can create some events, or do something with that data. And that has helped us a lot to understand how our system behaves. Because as I said, all the application is built by us, created by us and maintained by us. So it's not something like we can go, I don't know, to Google and say, okay, what's the perfect CPU usage and network throughput for our API application? No one knows, because it's a new thing. And also it's something new even for us. So we first have to have like a real general view and start to look at those metrics and have like real, I don't know how to say, but like
understand, like it's what the baseline is.
Yeah, start having like,
what does normal look like? Yeah.
Yeah, you start shooting with a cannon, and then you use at the end you can use the thin knife to do the right cut in the right place. But at the beginning, you just need the big cannon, and when you install the New Relic applications, you get like I'm putting that in a good way. You get like this big cannon overview, like you get a lot of information that probably once you know what you're doing is too much, but when you are like starting to do things, it's really good to have a lot of information, and then you can start, okay, this is I don't need it, and then you can go there and like ignore it or remove that information and keep what you're using on the long term, and that's helpful a lot.
Awesome. So I know like we've worked together for a while, and I know there's been like quite a journey of kind of arriving at this place where you have a lot of the tools you need in a single place. Like, talk to me a bit about, how has your journey been going from how you used to monitor your systems, a few years back to like where you are today? Like, what kind of decisions have you made, and like what's the journey look like?
Okay. I will start describing what we had before. Mainly, I think we got the infrastructure that probably 80 or 90% of the startups companies had. It was basically Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. And we have, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 ELK clusters laying around, spread all over the place, which is nice in the sense of if something goes bad in one cluster, you still have logs from your other 11 clusters.
Yeah.
But it's really bad when you have to do maintenance on them, then you have to upgrade them, or when all of them decide to fill up at the same time. It happens. So then you have a lot of extra work to do, especially if something goes wrong, then you want to make a change that affect all the cluster, you have to go to, I don't know, all your clusters, 11 cluster, create the indexes, make change to your indexes, probably making change to your underlying OS, maintain your OS, upgrade the Elasticsearch software, the Kibana software. Also, if something goes down, then you have to go there. And the worst part, if you need to, as I was explaining, we have a microservice infrastructure, so you don't have to look only in one place. You get the message in one place, it travels to all the different places, and they get to the destination, and then it comes back. And So normally you have to go to 2 or 3 different microservices, probably less or more depending on the situation. Then you have to go like one Kibana to the next Kibana to the other Kibana, and then try to find out and hope that all the system have the same key for that message you're looking for, and that the developers are logging that. So at the end, it's really chaotic to start looking at that. When the system is small, it's not that complex, but when you start having millions of users per month, trust me, it's really painful. Nowadays, what we are having is putting everything, sending everything, for example, to new Relic logs. Then we have no more Elasticsearch to take care of, no more Kibanas to take care of, no more operating system to take care of. We only have to take care of our logs, know how to send the data, where to find it. I mean, the sense of what are the data we want to find, what are the tags we are looking for, what are the labels we are sending, and if we are not sending the labels, we just go to the developers and ask them to add it, or in the case of Kubernetes, we just add it to the deployment or the pods. We add the labels we want, and then go there, create our filters, and when we have all the data, also we can go the other way around. We can go, for example, to the Kubernetes Cluster Explorer, go to a pod, and then go from there, get the logs from that pod. So it's like a lot more simpler, and also we have all the logs on one single place, and then we don't need anymore to go like for 3 or 4 different Kibana screens to try to find out where our information is.
That's awesome. I'm really pleased to hear like it's kind of like a simpler setup, and it's easier to kind of debug those problems in the distributed system, whereby maybe you were checking in like multiple clusters before. Like I think that's the thing you were saying earlier about like how the scale of running a platform like letgo, like you need to have something that really lets you look across the whole distributed system at once. And what you were talking about before about all of the maintenance of like the Elasticsearch clusters and stuff, it kind of reminded me AWS. They used to have these T-shirts, and they would say, "Friends don't let friends run a data center."
Yeah,
that kind of. Do you remember that one? Yeah, that kind of reminded me of that. Is I think in a lot of cases, running something like many many logging clusters is like it's not fun work to do, and I guess like using something like New Relic for your logging is a hopefully a much improved situation.
Yeah, and it's the same with all. I mean, in our cases, what we're going to want to go for most of our, let's say, third-party, to call it somehow, applications, the things that are not core for our business, we're trying to get it like outside as a managed service, logs, monitoring. I don't know. Let's say, for example, Kubernetes. We try to use managed services for Kubernetes, so we don't have to care about the operating system. We don't have to care about storage or about databases that run these things, because it's not our main business. We are in the business of processing logs. We are not in the business of running Kubernetes cluster. We're in the business of using those resources to make our business better.
Yeah.
So,
I'm interested to know as well, like, since you started using New Relic for your logging as well, like, what do you think the difference is between, like a kind of a traditional logging tool and then like having your logs in somewhere like New Relic where you have, all of your infrastructure data, your application performance as well? Like, how has that changed the way that you investigate issues and kind of use the monitoring?
I mean, the big change is, as I said, explain or try to explain probably with for example, with the Kubernetes Cluster Explorer. Sometimes we have problems like a pod going crazy and start using a lot of CPU or a lot of memory with no reason. And then you can go to the Kubernetes Cluster Explorer, you can click on the pod, then you see the spike of CPU or a spike of memory in the graphics. Then you click on the logs, it sends you to the logs, and you can see the logs. And sometimes, depending on how the application is configured, of course. It's not magic, sadly. And you can go there and you can see on the logs, like, I don't know, something like, oh, I'm trying to do this like a zillion times over a second. And they say, I don't know, why is trying to get the same value a zillion times in a 1 second period when it makes no sense? And then you can say, like, this makes no sense. And then from there, you can go to, for example, you know what the application is right there. You can go to the APM, and then you can see, I don't know, I'm putting like an example just there. Go to the APM, and you can see the most common transaction, and then you can discover, like, I don't know, there is a loop there doing something wrong, or probably one developer by mistake put something on a canary there and forgot to put check for some condition, and it causing a loop, and then memory starvation, blah, blah, blah. And then you go like, and all that can go for like a small alert that says like, hey, one pod is using too much memory. And you go there, you get the logs, and the logs you see something strange, then you jump to APM. But all that, you do it on the same browser screen. But you can open different tabs, and at the end it's like a few clicks, and then you can discover that. Before that, you will have to go probably, I don't know, to other tools. You see the CPU spike or memory spike. Then you go to, let's say, Kibana. Then you see the logs. And then you have to go to another application and try to match the logs where you're seeing to what the application is. And so can you do the same with other tools? Yes. It will take you the same amount of time? No. It will take you more time. Again, if you are familiar with other applications, probably it will be you can do it. But then you have another something we discussed with some people there was like, yeah, we can do this, for example. And I'm sorry if I'm not going on the direction of everything is New Relic, but yeah, you can do it with other tools. But when once you get used to the tools, and when you get a new hire, so new people coming, how much time you have to spend training this new person to understand like 3 or 4 or 5 different tools instead of like, hey, go to use New Relic. We use New Relic. So I don't know how to use the New Relic logs, or I don't know how to use APM. And you can go and tell them like, hey, go check the documentation. We can go there and explain. And also, if you have some doubt, probably you can go to Google or Bing or any other search engine, and probably there will be like
other search engines do exist.
Yeah, or your favorite search engine, and you will get an answer probably on how to do the same thing you're used to do on the application you're more familiar with.
Yeah.
But if not, you can always send a message to someone called Daniel. That we normally talk with him, but he will direct you to the right path.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Marcelo. I've really enjoyed this talk. It's been like super helpful to hear like your perspective on, you know, like what you've been doing over the last couple of years, and like some of the value that you've seen from like adopting New Relic and using things like logging and combining that with all the other different tools. That's been super helpful. And thank you for sharing the examples as well. Like that's been really great. So I think we could just finish up there. And I say thank you so much for your time today, Marcelo. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a nice day.